The wind rustled through the ancient trees, whispering secrets only they could fathom. On a moss-covered rock, nestled deep within the forest, an immortal dragon, scales glinting like dark jewels, shared a silent vigil with an old human friend. Time, the relentless thief, had etched its mark upon the man's weathered face, while the dragon remained unchanged, a sentinel of eternity. They spoke of the distant past, of the day they first crossed paths. The old man's eyes sparkled with the memory, as vivid as the emerald eyes of the dragon that had met his gaze on that fateful day. It was a meeting that had defied logic, a connection between species that transcended the boundaries of time and understanding. "And do you remember," the man mused, "the day I introduced my wife to you?" The dragon nodded, smoke curling from its nostrils like a sigh. The woman had approached with trepidation, but in the end she had seen the wisdom of the bond between her husband and the ancient creature. The dragon's memory was like a tapestry, woven with threads of countless moments shared with the old man. He recalled the years when the man's sons and grandsons had stood before him, awed by the presence of their father's enigmatic friend. Time had flowed like a river, and yet they remained connected, two souls bound by a profound friendship. Now the old man lay upon the rock, his body frail, his breaths shallow. The dragon, sensing the impending farewell, couldn't help but ask, "Why spend your final moments with me, old friend, and not with your family?" The old man's gaze shifted to the canopy above, his eyes clouded with the weight of years gone by. "All my friends have departed," he murmured, his voice a fragile whisper. "My beloved wife, my comrades, they've all moved on. My children are grown, and my grandkids scattered across distant lands. Everyone has their own journey to embark upon." The dragon understood the man's solitude, the ache of being the last sentinel of a vanishing era. It had witnessed the best parts of the man's life, stood by him through joy and sorrow, and now it would share in his final moments. "I'm glad to have known you," the dragon said, a tremor of emotion in its voice. It leaned closer to its friend, its vast, ancient eye locking with the man's. In the stillness of that sacred place, where time and age held no dominion, the dragon continued its vigil, honoring the bond that transcended the boundaries of mortality. The old human friend closed his eyes, his chest rising and falling with the rhythm of his dwindling breath. In the embrace of the forest's tranquility, the man surrendered to the eternal slumber, his faithful dragon friend by his side. Locked in this damned cell, I can't help but fume at my old man. He was never around, not when I needed him most. His absence is a noose around my neck, choking me, and when I finally did find him, his final words burned as they will forever be branded in my brain. "You and your brother were the biggest mistake in my life. My only regret is that I did not leave sooner." That jerk. I had enough of him as I punched my cell wall, pushing the memories away. As I choke down the vile slop they call food, my mind turns to my mother. She's the one who didn't do enough to protect me. Her weakness, her failure, her ruthless anger, a bitter taste in my mouth. She would always say I looked like my father, like it was an excuse to hit me. She would tell me everything I shouldn't do, but never what I should do, always hoping I don't end up like my father. "Look where I am now, Mama. Look where your baby boy is now." I push away my slop of partially eatable food, having enough of her. Down in those wretched mines, I toil alongside these prisoners, cursing my wife with every pickaxe swing. Her constant nagging drove me to this hell and made me a puppet in this twisted game. She always complains about what we don't have, what she wants and wishes to have. I have given her everything only for her to find warmth in my brother's arms. What has she done? I shouldered everything, thinking she was different. I was such a fool. I slammed the pickaxe harder on the rock, hoping to spare myself the images of my happiest days with my wife flashing in my thoughts, like when our son was born. Just the idea that my brother is raising my son boiled my blood. In that dreary line we walk, I can't help but blame my older brother, especially my older brother. He left me behind when our mother turned to the bottle when her anger became a storm. He abandoned me to face the upheaval alone, and when he returned, he took my wife and son away. Just because he had a job, owned his own house, and had many horses did not mean he was any better. No wealth can justify how many times that bastard betrayed me. What have I ever done to him? Back in my cell, I glare at the walls, my anger reserved for my own flesh and blood. My son. He called the damn police when I acted like my mother. He betrayed me when I needed him most. If only my son knew. My brother's words swayed that naive and emotional little boy. He absorbed every word when my wife slandered me behind my back. I was hard on you, boy, but I gave you everything I never had growing up. Damn it all, I said, banging on the cell bars. The guards grabbed me, and I cursed society for turning its back on people like me. We're just cogs in a machine, disposable and forgotten. Just thinking about the many times I tried to do things right, only to be overworked, underpaid, and always spending more time at work than with my family, made me scoff at what society calls the right way of living. My wife would complain she wanted more time with me and that my son felt lonely, hardly ever seeing me. If we were to have the clothes she wanted, the toys my son wanted, the life I wanted, I had to work longer. That was short-lived once my employers would find out about my criminal past. What's the point of trying to do things right if no one would let me? Returning to the sins that led me here was my only choice. I had no choice if I was going to provide for my family, my ex-family. In a quiet room, they set an authentic meal before me. But my tears fall like acid rain as I think of my so-called friends who are not here when they should be, who showed me a different path to survive. Their influence led me here to this moment of reckoning. They mocked my courage and painted a beautiful future if I did what they said. I needed the money. I needed to escape Mama's abuse. And later down the road, I had to provide for my family. No one was going to help me, so I made a choice. Only now I see all the other options I had then. My hands froze at such a thought. How would my life have been if I chose different? Or was this always my destiny, eating alone in a room with guards at every exit? Finally, my head lies beneath that merciless guillotine. A truth boils inside me as I finally begin to see who is to blame for my misfortune. I blame myself for every choice, every hurt, and every love I never valued. I blame myself for not choosing the right woman and for not being a good father. I blame myself for the man I chose to be. I blame. The blade falls, the room spins, and everything fades away.
Listen to more dark fantasy stories at Shattering Story Collection